Chosen ones, what I am about to tell you today is something that the system does not want you to know, and I mean that literally, not as a conspiracy theory, not as dramatic language to get your attention, but as a real, observable, documented truth that becomes undeniable the moment you start paying attention. The system is terrified of you, not annoyed by you, not inconvenienced by you, terrified. And today, I am going to explain exactly why, what it is about your presence, your specific God-given, anointed presence that disturbs systems that were built to keep people in a specific place, and what to do with that information. But first, let me define what I mean by the system, because I am not talking about one specific institution. I am talking about the collection of structures, systems, and ways of operating that were built to maintain a specific order, an order that benefits the few at the top and requires the many at the bottom to stay exactly where they are. An order that needs people to stay small, stay distracted, stay divided, stay dependent, because the moment people start waking up, start seeing clearly, start stepping into their actual power, the order is threatened, and chosen ones by their very nature, by their very design, are a threat to that order. Not because they set out to be, but because everything about them contradicts what the system requires of the people it controls. Let me walk you through exactly what it is about you that terrifies the system, and I want to be specific, because I think when you see it, when you really see it, you are going to understand why your life has been what it has been, why certain spaces have pushed back against you in ways that felt disproportionate. Why certain people in positions of power have had a specific reaction to you that went beyond normal. Why you have been targeted in ways that did not make sense until today. The first thing about you that terrifies the system is your ability to see through it. The system depends on people not seeing it clearly. It depends on the narrative it has constructed about itself being accepted without question. The narrative that says, this is just how things work. This is just the way it is. You cannot change it. You should not question it. Just accept your place in it and function accordingly. And most people, exhausted, distracted, overwhelmed by the demands of daily survival, accept that narrative, not because they are stupid, but because questioning it requires energy that surviving consumes. But you have never been able to just accept the narrative. Something in you has always known when something was not right, has always been able to feel the gap between what was being presented and what was actually true, has always seen the machinery behind the curtain even when you could not always articulate what you were seeing. That sight, that God-given ability to perceive truth beneath the performance, is one of the most dangerous things a person can possess in a world that runs on performance. Because systems cannot control what they cannot blind, and they cannot blind you. They have tried through education that taught you what to think rather than how to think. Through media that controlled the narrative and called questioning it conspiracy. Through social pressure that labeled truth-tellers as difficult, as troublemakers, as people who need to learn to work within the system, but none of it fully worked because the sight was placed in you by God, not given to you by the system, and therefore the system cannot take it away, and that terrifies them. If you have spent your life feeling like you could see things others refuse to see, type in the comments right now, I see it. Let heaven mark that this message found someone whose sight was never broken, just unconfirmed. The second thing about you that terrifies the system is your refusal to stay in the box. Every system assigns boxes to people. Boxes defined by race, by class, by education, by background, by circumstance, by history. And the function of the box is to tell you what is possible for someone like you, what level you can reach, what doors are open to you, what you should aspire to given where you started. And most people, even people who are frustrated by their box, eventually accept its walls, not because they want to, but because the system makes the walls feel permanent, makes the ceiling feel fixed, makes the limits feel like facts rather than constructs. But chosen ones have a specific problem with boxes. They keep outgrowing them. Keep pushing against the walls, keep achieving things that the box said were not possible for someone with their background, their resources, their starting point. Keep breaking through ceilings that the system said were fixed. And every time a chosen one breaks through a ceiling, every time they exceed what the box assigned them, it sends a message to everyone else in that box that the walls are not permanent, that the ceiling can be broken. That what the system said was fixed is actually negotiable, and that message, carried through the life of one chosen one who refused to stay contained, has the potential to wake up everyone around them. And systems that depend on people staying in boxes cannot afford for the boxes to be questioned, so they push back against the ones who question them, against you. The third thing about you that terrifies the system is your direct access to God. The system historically, consistently, has understood that its greatest threat is people who believe they have direct access to a power greater than the system itself. Because if you believe that the God who created you is your source, then you do not need the system to be your source. If you believe that the same God who parted seas and brought water from rocks and fed thousands with almost nothing is personally involved in your life, then the system's ability to make you desperate, to make you dependent, to make you feel like you cannot survive without it is fundamentally undermined. That is a threat that the system takes seriously, which is why throughout history, one of the primary targets of systems of control has been the genuine, personal, unmediated faith of ordinary people. Faith that does not need an institution to access God. Faith that reads the word for itself and draws its own conclusions. Faith that prays directly and receives direct answers. Faith that believes in a God who is bigger than any system that has ever been built. That faith, your faith, is not just personally powerful. It is systemically threatening because it means you have a resource that the system cannot control, cannot regulate, cannot limit, cannot cut off. And resources it cannot control are resources it fears. Type 444 in the comments right now. 444 is the number of divine protection, the signal that what God placed in you cannot be regulated, cannot be cut off, and cannot be controlled by any system that has ever been built. Type it and declare that your access is direct, your source is untouchable, and your assignment was written before any system existed to oppose it. The fourth thing about you that terrifies the system is your community-building instinct. Chosen ones, by nature, build community. They gather people. They create spaces where people feel seen, valued, heard, and empowered. They have a gift for seeing what someone carries before that person sees it themselves, and calling it out, calling it forward, helping it emerge. And community. Specifically, the kind of community that chosen ones build is a direct threat to the isolation that systems depend on. Because isolated people are controllable people. People who feel alone in their struggles are less likely to question whether their struggles are structural. People who are divided from each other by race, by class, by political identity, by any of the 1,000 things the system uses to keep people apart, are people who cannot unite around the common experience of being in the same box. But when a chosen one starts building community, when they start creating spaces where people realize they are not alone, where they start comparing notes and discovering that the system has been operating the same way on all of them, that is dangerous. That is the beginning of something the system cannot easily control. And so chosen ones who build community find themselves facing a specific kind of resistance. Attempts to discredit them, attempts to divide the community they built, attempts to introduce confusion, conflict, and mistrust into spaces that were becoming too unified for the system's comfort. Recognize that resistance for what it is, not random opposition, strategic disruption. The fifth thing about you that terrifies the system is your creativity. Creativity. Genuine, God-sourced, original creativity is one of the most subversive forces in existence because creativity produces alternatives. Alternatives are what systems fear most. The system needs you to believe there is only one way, one path, one structure, one acceptable form. Because the moment you start imagining alternatives, different ways of doing things, different structures, different possibilities, you start to see that what exists is not inevitable. It is just a choice that was made by someone and can be unmade or replaced by someone else. And chosen ones, with their God-given creativity, are constantly imagining alternatives, building things that did not exist before. Solving problems in ways the system said could not be solved, creating pathways where the system said there were no pathways. Every chosen one who builds something outside the system, every business, every community, every art form, every solution proves that the system is not the only option, and that proof multiplied across the lives of many chosen ones is genuinely threatening to a system that needs to be seen as the only option. The sixth thing about you that terrifies the system is your resilience. Systems of control depend on the ability to break people, not always physically, but psychologically, emotionally, spiritually. The system applies pressure through financial stress, through social exclusion, through the weight of constant messages that you are not enough, that you do not matter, that your voice does not count, and waits for that pressure to produce compliance, to produce people who are too exhausted, too defeated, too broken to resist anything. And it works on most people, not because those people are weak, but because the pressure is specifically designed to break human beings. The chosen ones who have been through fire that should have destroyed them and somehow came out the other side do not break the way the system expects. They bend, they hurt, they struggle, but they do not break, and unbroken people cannot be fully controlled. The system knows this. And every time a chosen one survives something that was designed to break them, every time they rise from a circumstance that was meant to end them, the system recalculates and tries harder, because a resilient chosen one is a direct threat to the effectiveness of every pressure the system applies. The seventh thing about you that terrifies the system is your voice, specifically your authentic, unfiltered, truth-telling voice. Not the voice the system gave you permission to use, not the version of your voice that was shaped by education to speak in ways that did not challenge the structure. Your actual voice, the one that comes from the deepest part of who you are, the one that carries the weight of lived experience, of having been on the underside of the systems you are now speaking about. That voice, when it is fully released, does something that carefully crafted institutional messaging cannot do. It reaches people, really reaches them, in the place where they have been carrying something that has never been named. In the place where they have always known something was wrong but never had words for it. Your voice, telling the truth in the specific way that only your experience qualifies you to tell it, names things for people that have been nameless. And named things can be addressed. Named systems can be challenged. Named injustices can be organized against, which is exactly why the system has been trying to silence your voice for as long as it has. Not because your voice is too loud, because it is too true. Before we go into how the system tries to stop this, type in the comments, "I will not shrink, not to be provocative." Because the world needs the full version of you, not the edited version. Not the system-approved version, the actual version. Put it in writing now. Now I want to talk about the specific ways the system tries to neutralize the chosen one threat, because understanding the tactics is what allows you to stop being surprised by them and start responding strategically. The first tactic is discrediting. Before your message can spread, before your voice can reach the people it was sent to reach, the system tries to discredit you personally by attacking your character, your past, your mistakes, the things you did before you became who you are today. The goal is not justice. The goal is distraction. To shift the conversation from what you are saying, which is threatening, to who you are, which can be made to seem disqualifying. And it works on people who have not yet developed the discernment to separate the message from the messenger. But it does not silence the message, because truth does not lose its truth based on who tells it. The second tactic is co-opting. Sometimes the system cannot discredit the chosen one. The message is too powerful, the reach is too wide, the impact is too visible. So instead of fighting it, the system tries to absorb it, to bring the chosen one inside, to offer them a seat at the table, a title, a platform, a position, in exchange for softening the message, for making it safe, for delivering it in a way that does not actually challenge the structure that produced the problem. And this is one of the most dangerous tactics, because it comes wrapped in opportunity and recognition, in the very things that chosen ones have often been denied, and the temptation to finally be accepted, finally be recognized, finally have the platform is real. But the price is the message, and a chosen one who silences their message in exchange for access has been neutralized more effectively than any attack could have achieved. Stay true to the message. The table is only worth sitting at if you can still say what you were called to say while sitting there. The third tactic is exhaustion. The system makes things so difficult, so bureaucratic, so resource-intensive, so constantly challenging, that the chosen one simply runs out of energy to keep going, not because one specific thing defeats them, but because the accumulation of 1,000 small difficulties, each one manageable alone, becomes an impossible mountain together. And when you are exhausted, genuinely, deeply, bone-level exhausted, the vision shrinks, the courage decreases, the voice gets quieter, and the system gets what it was working toward without ever having to deliver a knockout blow. Recognize exhaustion as a tactical weapon, and respond to it not with more effort but with strategic rest, with community, with the wisdom to know that sustainability matters more than speed. The fourth tactic is isolation. The system works to separate chosen ones from each other, from community, from the people who understand them, from the spaces where their voice is received and their gifts are affirmed, because isolated chosen ones are less effective than connected ones. A voice speaking alone reaches fewer people than voices speaking together, and the system knows this, which is why it consistently introduces things that divide chosen one communities. Comparison, competition, jealousy, offense, theological disagreement, political division, anything that turns the energy of chosen ones against each other instead of toward the common purpose. Do not let the isolation tactic work. Pursue connection, even when it is hard, even when community has hurt you before, because the version of you that is connected to others who carry what you carry is exponentially more powerful than the version of you that is alone. There is a chosen one right now sitting inside every one of those four tactics at the same time, being discredited for the message they carry, being offered co-option in exchange for their silence, running on fumes from the accumulated weight of a system that made everything harder than it needed to be, and completely isolated from anyone who can tell them that what they are experiencing is not personal failure. It is strategic interference. That person does not know yet that what is being done to them has a name, that the resistance is not random, that the pushback is not evidence that they were wrong to try. This message exists to reach them through the link in the description or the pinned comment. You can plant a seed into the mission that sends this word to every chosen one still inside those tactics, wondering why their life has faced the resistance it has faced. Not a donation to a channel. An act of resistance, a decision that the system's strategy of exhaustion and isolation does not get to work on one more person in silence. A coffee, a one-time contribution, a monthly place in the inner circle that keeps this mission moving. Every level sends the same message, that the chosen ones the system is trying to isolate deserve to know they are not alone, and what they are facing has a name. Bring with you as you do this the specific tactic you have felt most in your own life, the discrediting, the exhaustion, the isolation, the co-option offer that would have cost you the message. Hold it and plant this seed as your first act of pushing back against the system that deployed it. You were not placed here to be neutralized quietly. Now, I want to tell you what to do with the understanding that the system is terrified of you, because information without application is just weight, and I do not want you to carry more weight. I want you to be more effective. The first application is stop shrinking to make the system comfortable. This is the one that I think will hit hardest, because so much of your life, so many of your choices, so many of the ways you have adjusted yourself have been about making yourself small enough, quiet enough, unthreatening enough to be accepted, to not trigger the resistance, to not attract the attack, to be palatable to spaces that were not built for you. And the shrinking never actually worked, because the system is not threatened by what you do, it is threatened by what you are, and no amount of shrinking changes what you are. It just means that less of what you are reaches the world. Stop shrinking, not to be provocative, not to pick fights, but because the world needs the full version of you, not the edited version, not the system-approved version, the actual version. The second application is use your voice now, not when you feel more ready, not when the platform is bigger, not when the conditions are more favorable, now with what you have in the spaces where you currently are. Because the system is counting on your silence. It is counting on you feeling too small, too unqualified, too uncertain to speak. And every day you wait for perfect conditions is a day the system wins without having to do anything. Speak now. In whatever form that takes for you. Write, create, build, teach, preach, organize. Connect. Whatever your voice looks like, use it now. Right now, share this message with every chosen one you know who has been silenced by the tactics we just named. Someone in your circle needs to understand today why their life has faced the resistance it has faced. They need to know it was not because they were wrong, it was because they were right. Send this to them before you keep watching. The third application is build outside the system where you can, because not every system needs to be engaged with. Some systems are better responded to by building alternatives than by fighting from within, and the creativity that is one of your gifts. The ability to imagine what does not yet exist is exactly what is needed to build those alternatives. What would it look like if you built the thing instead of waiting for the system to give you access to it? What would it look like if the community you created became the resource that the system said you had to come to them for? What would it look like if your faith, your gifts, your God-given creativity became the foundation of something that existed outside the structures that were never built for you? Build it. The system that is terrified of your presence cannot stop you from building something it does not control. Type 1111 in the comments if you are ready to build something outside the system that was never built for you. 1111 is the number of new beginnings, the signal that what has not yet existed is about to be created through your hands. Type it and let heaven mark the moment a chosen one decided to build. The fourth application is protect your peace fiercely, because a disturbed chosen one is less effective than a peaceful one. And the system knows this, which is why so much of what it does is designed to disturb, to make you angry, to make you fearful, to make you reactive, to consume your energy with things that do not ultimately matter. Peace is not passive, it is strategic. A chosen one, who is at peace, who cannot be provoked into reacting, who cannot be destabilized by what the system throws, is one of the most frustrating opponents the system has ever faced, because the system has no script for someone who sees everything clearly and remains peaceful. Protect your peace. Type in the comments, I will use my voice now, not when I am more ready, not when the platform is bigger. Now, because the system is counting on your silence, and this is the moment you tell it that the silence is over. The fifth application is stay rooted in God, because everything the system fears about you flows from your connection to Him. The sight, the resilience, the voice, the creativity, the community building, the refusal to stay in the box. All of it at its root is the nature of God expressing itself through you in the world, and the moment you are cut off from that root, the moment you start operating purely from your own strength, your own wisdom, your own effort, you become damageable, not immediately, but eventually, because your own strength has limits. But the strength of the one who placed you here has none. Stay rooted. In prayer, in the Word, in the presence, in the specific, personal, intimate relationship with the God who chose you for exactly this moment. Because everything the system fears about you is most fully expressed when you are most fully connected to Him. Building outside the system is not a solo act. It requires a source that the system cannot touch, a supply line that runs deeper than any resource the system controls. This mission is itself something built outside the structures, built on the belief that chosen ones need to hear the truth about why they have faced what they have faced, and that truth changes things when it finally lands. Through the link in the description or the pinned comment, you can plant into what we are building here. Not because it is the only thing outside the system, but because every act of planting into something built on this kind of truth is itself an act of building. A coffee, a one-time gift, a monthly commitment to what this mission is putting into the world. What you invest in builds, what exists outside the structures that were never built for you. And what exists outside those structures begins to prove. The same way your own life proves it that the system is not the only option. It never was. Bring with you what you are ready to build. Not what you are waiting to build when conditions are right. What you are ready to start now. Plant alongside it. The system cannot stop what is built outside its reach. Chosen ones, I want to close this video with something I want you to understand at the deepest level. The system being terrified of you is not a burden, it is a confirmation. It confirms that what you carry is real, that the gift is significant, that the calling is genuine, that the assignment matters beyond your own life. Systems do not fear ordinary things. They do not mobilize against things that do not threaten them. The fact that your presence, your specific, God-designed, purpose-filled presence disturbs systems that were built to keep people small is evidence that you were not built small. You were built for something that exceeds what any system was designed to contain, and no system, however powerful, however entrenched, however long it has been operating, can contain what God released when He placed you here. So walk in that, not arrogantly, not combatively, but with the quiet, settled, unshakable confidence of someone who knows that they were not placed here to fit into what already exists. They were placed here to build what does not yet exist, to speak what has not yet been said, to reach who has not yet been reached, to disturb what needs to be disturbed, and to do all of it under the covering of a God who is greater than every system that has ever been built or ever will be. Type in the comments right now, the system lost. I was built for more. Let that declaration stand in writing before this message ends, because what you declare over your own life becomes the testimony someone else needs to find their footing. Walk in that. The system is terrified of your presence. Let it be. If this video reached something real in you today, share it right now with every chosen one you know. Someone needs to understand today why their life has faced the resistance it has faced. Comment below and tell me, where have you felt the system push back against you most? I read every single comment. If you are new here, welcome. Stay chosen, stay rooted, stay building, because the system that is terrified of your presence has already lost. It just does not know it yet.